I started learning French in 8th grade. We had the options between French and Spanish, and I wanted a challenge. Everyone said that French was harder than Spanish, and I was like, okay, let me attempt it. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I really started to fall in love with the French language. I had an amazing teacher who made me fall in love with the culture. And she would bring in crepes and she would bring in food and we would celebrate the holidays. And then there was also a sense of, I grew up in a monolingual household, so I've never really felt that sensation of when you start to do oral exams and you're having a conversation, a two-way conversation with people, and someone else is able to understand the sounds that are coming out of your mouth. That really fascinated me. So every exam where I would learn new vocabulary and then be able to immediately apply it, I just kind of got addicted to that feeling. When I came to college, I knew I wanted to major in management, and then I had 3 minors. I had a minor in Spanish, French, and international business. And then my sophomore year of college, I was about to finish my French minor, and I just couldn't picture my life without taking more French classes after that. So I decided to double major. I thought that it would be a good idea to really become proficient in a certain language and maybe even be able to use that language professionally. So I decided to continue with French. I have found that through French Club, I'm able to learn a lot about the French culture myself and continue practicing the language, because our weekly Cafe Francophones, where we do a French speaking hour, we always have some sort of really fun activity to review vocabulary or review verb tenses, whether it's through conjugation battleship or charades, whatever it is. And I've found that having those weekly meetings has really created a community of people. And then outside of that, we've also done a lot of holiday events where we give educational presentations. We've also started a Francophone pays series, or French countries, French speaking countries. And I've found that being able to present and give a lot of educational information during those events has led me to learn a lot more about those countries. And I have thoroughly enjoyed every event that we've put on. And also just seeing everyone who might not speak French but is kind of interested in learning more about the French culture coming to those events and having the time of their life and getting to interact with the food, interact with the culture in some way. That's really been what fulfills my role in the club. What I really enjoy about tutoring and the tutoring services is that you get a one-on-one interaction with someone, and I can always find a new creative way to explain something that will hopefully click for that person. And it's that light bulb moment that really fulfills me in every tutoring session, because they come in and they're just overwhelmed and they're like, I don't understand prepositions or whatever it is. And then once I have 30 minutes or an hour to sit them down, explain it, ask their questions, what do you understand about this? Maybe do some examples. They're really able to have it click, and they can then start applying it in their language journey. And I think that knowing that I've been a part of so many people's language journeys through my time tutoring here at DePaul is also very fulfilling. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I think for the 2Ts, the fact that we offer free language tutoring services has been a big benefit in really pushing them through the fast-paced learning curriculum that we have at DePaul. Through DePaul specifically, I've now taken 3 study abroad trips. And I've been to France a couple other times, but only one of those 3 trips through DePaul was to France. Total, I've been to Ireland my freshman year. My sophomore year, I went on a 2-week abroad trip to France. And then my senior year over spring break, I was in Greece. And in France specifically, about 8 of the 22 students, I want to say, spoke French. And we had a service learning aspect of that trip specifically. So we were going into soup kitchens and helping volunteer. And then we also were just overall helping guide our peers around the city. And so there were many opportunities for me to practice French. And I think just in general, knowing another language and being empathetic and then going abroad to a country like Greece. I don't speak Greek, but I understand what cultural differences are. I understand culture shocks. And so I think kind of going into that trip with that perspective really helped me make the most out of that trip. So even if I don't speak that language, I still empathized. I still learned a couple words. I still learned how to say, "Do you speak English?" in Greek. But I think that overall it has really benefited me to know another language when traveling abroad, even if it's not the language that's primarily used in that country. There's one class that I still hold near and dear to my heart for many reasons, and that's the French for Business class, or Français des Affaires, which is essentially like French for professionals and learning professional vocabulary and anything that you would need to know if you're about to work in French. And that class, I learned how to build a resume, I learned how to write a cover letter, I learned how to do a lot of business interactions and just understand certain vocabulary or verbs that are necessary. And shortly after taking that class my sophomore year, I got my first ever internship, which was at the French consulate of Chicago. And I was the only American in that office. So every single meeting was in French. Every single interaction that I had with a coworker or another intern was in French. And so it was a little bit stressful and a little bit intimidating. My interview even was in French, but I think that I got the interview because I submitted a resume both in English and in French. And so I was really fortunate to have already taken that class and learned those skills and received those presentation skills that I hadn't yet fully developed in French. And it's taught by a wonderful professor, Polly Mangerson, who did an amazing job. And I know she still teaches that class every 2 years. And so I highly recommend it for anyone who, especially if you want to learn, like, work professionally in French, that is definitely a class that is going to help accelerate your French. I would say keep pushing yourself. I think that the process of learning another language is one of the most demanding things that you will go through in life, but it also consequently will build a lot of resilience, because it's not going to be an easy journey ever, no matter what language you choose to learn. But resilience is something that is really hard to otherwise build in an individual. And so pushing through those parts that are really hard, going from an A2 level to a B1 or B2 to C2 or B2 to C1, it's very hard when you feel that frustration. But anytime you feel that frustration, you have to remind yourself that you're learning something. And I think that, certain languages might be easier to learn than others, but no matter what language you choose to learn, you're really going to grow your perspective and you're going to become more empathetic, just learning more about the language and culture and how it functions. And so I think that I encourage anyone to just keep going, keep asking questions, keep being okay kind of looking stupid sometimes, and just formulate that sentence, get it out of your head, get it out of your mouth, because if it's incorrect but somebody understands what you're saying, that's the most important part. And worry about the grammar later, worry about how to say that vocab word later, you can search it up. But circumlocution to get your point across is one of the most important skills I think I've developed ever. And I think I didn't really develop that skill until I started learning French.